Beautiful autumn day. So let's have a clip about what dahlias I'm choosing to keep and why. This is mostly about health, a little bit about colour. So come and have a look at my dahlias with me and we'll see which we think are worth holding on to. So there was a frost forecast last night, which we didn't quite get. We had a little bit of ground frost, but the air frost didn't come and knock the dahlias off. And that's given me the opportunity to choose. And I don't grow huge amounts of dahlias anymore, but I still have a few, about 90. And I'm going to look at them. Some of them don't look that brilliantly well, and those are going to be the first I get rid of. So let's have a look. I planted my dahlias in a really small patch this year. This is about 90 plants and they're planted in a metre wide bed. And it is about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, about 14 metres of dahlias with 90 plants in. So I really rammed them in, which has worked well this year because they've kind of held each other up. And they all came from cuttings, so they were all quite small. However, I am tempted to leave them in the ground over winter and let them come up again and do their thing next year, because I'm not being such a serious dahlia grower anymore. I'm sort of doing it for fun. And so I'm looking at the ones which are looking really, really well. And I'm going to choose which I leave in the ground and which I lift. So I'm looking really for unwell. And here is this is Bracken Ballerina. And she's just not looking $1 million. Is this virus? Always worth turning it over and seeing if you can see somebody's been munching it. And yes, I can see the actual person. There is a little muncher. He's a tiny beetle. And that's what's causing, I think, unless I send all of this material off to a laboratory, I can't be sure. But I think, although it looks a bit munched, it doesn't look terribly well, I think that's actually fine. I think that's just somebody eating it. So I'm going to keep it. This is blackjack, looking incredibly well. I mean, just the leaves are looking brilliant. It's strong. It's got plenty of new growth. Definitely a keeper. This is Hootenanny, a great favourite of mine. When she comes out, she's much bigger than this, but obviously I cut everything yesterday, so you can only see this buddy one. And again, this one has been munched a bit, and you can see the actual holes. So again, I think this is probably all right. So I'm going to keep it. More exceptionally well-looking blackjack. Now this is Linda's baby. Again, I cut all my dahlias yesterday, so but there's a bud coming up. And Linda's baby is very, very popular dahlia because she's a really good peach pom-pom sort of ball shape. Everybody loves her, very popular with brides. And so I could do with good quality stock. And well, I think this has been eaten. Over the last, I've had this for years and it has never looked terribly well. So I'm going to chuck this and get new stock. It could be somebody's eating it. If you look at the leaves, I'd say that was munched, but I think it looks a bit virusy as well. And so I'm going to chuck it. That's one of the ones I'm going to get rid of. And here's somebody else who's really looking properly unwell. Most of the other dahlias, you can see where they grow away from material that doesn't look terribly good. But this one, look, yes, there's been munching, but it's not growing away very successfully. Sometimes dahlias can have a bit of virus, but grow away from it, with a feed, they'll be fine. But I'm not sure this one is going to do me any favors next year either. So this is going to be cut back. You can see it's got quite spindly stems. It's just not looking great. So farewell. This one too, I think this is virus, and it's growing away from it. There's plenty of new growth, but it hasn't ever done well. So I'm going to get rid of this one too. Some of them have had an amazing year. This is, unusually for me, this is American Dawn, which is a great favourite of mine for the colour. But I've never had her so tall. She's at least 3.5, probably nearly 4 foot high, which is for her very tall. And she's looking really, really well. So I'm very happy to be keeping her. So what I'll do is I'm literally going to come along with a little fork, and I'm just going to lift anything that I'm not keeping. I'm not going to have for next year. And I'm actually going to throw them in the bin, because if they have got any virus and I put them on the compost heap, then I'm keeping the virus on my compost heap. So I'm going to throw them away altogether. There are not very many of them, actually, given that I've rammed them in so close. And then I'll wait, because I haven't got so many of them. I used to have about 300. And so 300, that was a lot of digging up and, storing and everything. But 90, especially after I've dug up and got rid of maybe 10 or 15 of these, I'm going to only have about 80 to store. So I will let them flower on until the frost really comes and gets them. And then I'll lift and store for 2025. Next year, here it comes. I spent all last night, weirdly, obsessing about when to start my anemones for 2025. And I think that's one of the things about this time of year, is you're like, when do I call time on the season for this season? And I need to start for next. But when? Hold your horses. And if you're new to the channel, you're very welcome. Please do subscribe, press the bell icon, and we'll tell you when we've got more clips coming up. And if any of the tips and tricks we give you along the way are useful, you can always buy me a coffee, or better still, join my club, which is where all the fun and games really happens. On we go. So here's Linda's baby on the other side of the bed. Just not looking great. I think for the money, it's worth some new stock. And I'm very lucky, because I've been on the Dahlia Trials forum at RHS Wisley for the last couple of years. And so I've got some great ideas for dahlias that I'm going to order for me. We have finished our forum and chosen our winners. And of course, we won't be able to share the winners until next year. It's all embargoed. The dahlias which have been given AGMs. But I have made myself a little list. Not necessarily the prize winners. The winners are to do with, how they perform generally. They're not necessarily for cut flower growers. They win for all sorts of reasons. But I have made a list of the ones that I really like. And as usual, on my list are varieties which actually in the trial may not have performed as brilliantly as some of the others, or may not do the same job as some of the others are better at. So if I tell you which some of those are, which ones I'm going to order, please don't think that they have been automatically part of the ones that have been awarded AGMs, or that they haven't. They're just the ones that tickled my fancy. So I'll take you through those. So I'm just going to look them up for you and show them to you on a laptop, which just shows I'm technically completely inept. I wouldn't be able to insert an image from another website if you paid me £1 million. Actually, maybe then I'd take the time to learn. But anyway, right now, I wouldn't know how to do it. So I'm just going to show you images off a laptop, and hopefully you will be inspired to start your thinking about what dahlias you're going to grow next year too. So this one I love. This is Corello Raven's Blood Orange, and it has it looks like Tithonia. Tall, not especially heavy on the plant, not especially big plant, but I think in my rich soil it might do really well. And I absolutely love the perfection of the colour. For me, it's a perfect orange. And then this one is Dahlia Sarah Raven. Absolutely, definitely love it. I think it'll be useful for late season weddings, and I will cut it and cut it and cut it because I think I will be drawn to it. It's one of those ones I won't ignore. Whereas there are some out there that I don't cut, even though they're very nice and charming. I'm not always drawn to them as I was. This is a lovely dahlia. I really like it. This one is Rycroft Caroline's Beauty. And oh my goodness, it is hot, 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 hot pink. But the edges of the petals are white and there's a little bit of yellow in the middle. Again, not necessarily every wedding, but for me, it's going to lift my spirits every time I see it. And last but not least, this is Dahlia Dutch Delight. The ones that were flowering at Wisley were slightly a more orangey blush than this, but that's the image I've got found. But they've got these lovely curved petals. I really fell for this one, and will certainly be ordering it. So thank you very much to Sarah Raven, Jonathan Buckley, Webb's Garden Centres and the National Dahlia Collection, Dahlia Society for the website images. I'm going to try not to order too many. My colleague, Natalie, at Somerset Dahlias is growing all the dahlias I can possibly need. So I'm going to grow enough for my everyday work. And then if I need a top up, I'll know where to go for 2025. It's very nice to have people beginning to have specialists around the place so that I can also specialise as a flower farmer. So now I'm going to take my ducks for a walk. Put them in the pond before I go digging. Come on, ducks, in you go. They're like, what's she doing? She's got her camera. What's she doing? Come on, in I go. In the water. Go on. Go on. They're always a bit nervous about jumping in at the beginning. I have to push them down into the pond, and then they say, oh, yes, I remember. That's what we do, is we get in a pond. The ducks are hilarious. I've put them in the pond, and they'll just come back when they're ready. And I hear them sort of marching back across the lawn. They're very, very funny. Listen to them. There's one other thing to look out for when choosing which dahlias to lift. And until I lift them, it's hard for me to show you because it doesn't really show until you've dug up the tuber and snipped the stems away and you look at the tuber and see if it's looking great. And so if you're looking out for root gall, I haven't seen any yet. So I had a walk around and I couldn't see any signs of it. But one of the ways to tell that you might have root gall is you'll have the tuber in the ground and the tuber will have thrown a lot of quite narrow stems, quite short, very small flowers for the kind of dahlia. That's one sign that you might have root gall, but it doesn't always show like that. Sometimes it's not for me until I lift the tuber and I might find that I've got 1 or 2 or 3 really good strong stems with lots of side shoots that have been flowering all summer that look great. And then there might be one side of the tuber and it's like having a fat potato, and where the main stem is coming out from it, around it will be clearly little warty growths, lots and lots and lots of little warty growths sort of rammed together. like almost like a, you know when you get a plant that's got a lot of aphids on it and they're all jammed together? That's a little bit like what crown gall on a dahlia looks like. It's lots and lots of little tiny growths all very tight together. If you see that, you can either cut out the part of the tuber that's affected and get rid of that, and if there's a side that's clean, keep it. But if you do that, please do disinfect your knife before you cut and afterwards, because you don't want to spread that to the rest of your dahlias. Personally, if I lift something and I find signs of root gall, the whole of that dahlia goes in the bin, not on the compost heap. You're welcome.